What's up, guys? So hey, I want to put this video together. So I get these questions a lot: how to lead a dark mist, and it doesn't seem like a lot of people understand how to find a dark mist, how to lead a dark mist, and all that kind of stuff. So we'll put this together. So before we get started, though, if you can like and subscribe for me, that would help me out a bunch and help the channel out too, and as I grow this thing. So let's go into dark mist. Let's go through the formations that you use for dark mist to start with. Range phalanx. You use that anytime you're sending range. You don't put the range at the back, you put it up front. And the reason you do that is range is supposed to fire from distance. So if you have it in range phalanx, it doesn't walk forward much or at all and start shooting right away. So you don't have to wait on it to go forward. So anytime you're using range as your main blast on a dark mist, you use range phalanx, period. The other two that I use predominantly are infantry wedge and range wedge. Infantry wedge I use for cav because it puts a cav all the way in the back, and range wedge I use for infantry because it puts the infantry all the way in the back. And I put those in the back because you want them to walk forward and get to the wall. If you put them at the front, they're going to take hits from the wall as they walk forward, and you're going to lose your infantry or your cav as it goes forward to the wall. You put them in the back, and then you put what I call fluff, usually 4 or 3 infantry. If you're doing a cav blast in an infantry wedge, you put 4 infantry and 4 ranged, and they walk forward into the wall, and the wall and the enemy's range will shoot those first. They have to target those first. The reason I use wedges is because it'll kill half of your infantry troops, then it'll target half of the range troops, then it'll go back and target the other half of the infantry troops, and go back and target the other half of the range troops in an infantry wedge. And the same principle applies in a range wedge. So it hits those first so that your main body of troops marches up to the wall and kills the enemy wall before it takes any damage. Most of the time. Sometimes not, but a lot of times your main body of troops won't take any damage. I think everybody knows what you should use as heroes. Obviously, if you're using ranged, you use 4 ranged heroes and 1 army hero. Same goes for cav and infantry. All that stuff. Familiars is another one. Obviously, if you have T5 familiars and you have them where they're up at a decent level, you want to use those that complement your troops, because that's what you're looking for. Obviously, gear, I mean, that's pretty much a given. You're using the infantry gear, cav gear, and all that kind of stuff on these things. That fourth, those familiars, if you don't have the T5, use attack first, and then if for that particular group, then HP, and then if you absolutely have nothing else, use defense. As most people know in this game, defense is the weakest of the 3 things that you can have, and so you want to use those. All right. Scouting and DNs, what you're looking for. Let's start with DN5s. You can occasionally find a DN with just 1 type of troop, maybe some siege. That's pretty given. You're just sending the counter to it. It's not a hard thing to figure out. 2 types, and I see this with 2 types. People make mistakes all the time. It has, let's say it has 3 million infantry troops and 600k ranged. So people will send cav, but that's not what you want to do. You want to send, at that particular instance, you want to send infantry. because if you send cav and it's and that front line is ranged, it's going to tear up your range troops, and you may or may not win depending on your stats, but you will definitely get tore up. You want to send, if it's a 2-type nest, you want to send the counter and an even. If you send the counter and you hit the counter, you're going to win. If you send it and you hit the even, you're hoping that your stats are high enough that you'll actually beat the even. So what I mean by that is, for in that instance, you got infantry and you got ranged. You send infantry. You're hoping that you hit their range first and get into their infantry. If you don't and you get unlucky and you hit infantry first, you're hoping that your stats are a little better than that stats and that you take it down. That's that. If you're scouting DN5s, DN6s, and what you're looking for there is one thing to be high, say for instance, cav is high. And then on the other two, you're looking for the counter to be a low amount. I would recommend less than 500k troops in the counter, maybe 700k depending on if it's a DN6, maybe 500 of a DN5, 700. And your second tier, if it's got mainly cav, then you're going to be sending range. You're looking for the range to be a little higher. It's fine if the range is a little higher, but you definitely want the infantry to be low, because that's the counter to what you're going to be sending. So you're looking for those kind of things. So when you scout out, oh, I see the nest has 5 million cav, 1 million ranged, and 500k infantry. You're going to send that with range every time, because that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to get to that cav that they have. If you get countered with 500k infantry, then you're hoping your stats are good enough that you can get through their infantry and get into what they're doing. And it may be you can't get through it. Sometimes it happens. It happens to me. I got over 800% attack, and I still will hit a level 27 egg and get totally destroyed by 400k infantry, because the familiars and everything else in there are all geared for that counter. You can't look at a nest and look at their familiars and think, oh, I'm going to get it because of their familiars. This is all RNG on those nests. So sometimes you're scouting, looking for the best possible thing you can find and hoping that it works for you. The higher your stats get up, the easier it gets. When you hit evens, you're going to win more of them. The higher your stats get. When you get countered, you're going to win more. The higher your stats get. The higher your stats get, the more you can get less troops and win. I've won 27 and 28 eggs where I hit it even now with 1.3, 1.5 million troops, depending on the familiars in there. If you get the right familiars, you may totally lose too in the same situation. So, but anyway, that's how you go about looking for what you want in a DN. And I see so many people, they'll choose a nest and it'll have mainly infantry in there, but the second tier is range, and it has a good amount, and they'll send cav, and they get tore up every time because that range will just tear the crap out of the cav. So you gotta actually think about what the counter is, and is the second one going to do it? Like if I see a DN with that has infantry, mainly infantry, but that has a lot of range in it, I'm not sending to it, because I'm not going to win it. The chances of winning are slim. I have been around people that choose a different way of working on Dark Nest. They'll find one that's even across the board, where it's all the same. DN6 is a good example, where it's got 2 million infantry, 2 million range, and 2 million cav. It's all the same across the board. They choose their best stat and they send at it, and they just see what happens. And they're hoping that it you know, see what happens. And if they get lucky, they win that one. If they don't, they know what the formation is and they try to counter it. That works too. I think you'll lose more that way, more often that way than win, just because you're taking a gamble. And the one last thing before I get off here is level 28 eggs. We all know 28s are anti. What do you send at a level 28 to win? It's a guess, right? So we don't know what's in it. My very first shot at it, I always sing Cav, and why I sing Cav Blast isn't because they're all going to win that way. I send it because it's the quickest thing to march. My fluff is T3, so it marches quick. I have T4, T5 Cav in it, and I send at it, and I put T3 infantry and T3 range in it, so it marches as fast as possible. That way, if I get there and I lose, and I know what to counter, and then I can see the formation. If it's something I can beat, then I can resend at it, but I know that I can beat it. So it's just speed thing. That's all I'm doing, trying to get to it as quick as possible and get back to me as quick as possible so I can get back to it quicker. That's all, the only reason to do it that way. It's not like there's any rocket science behind it. So, all right. So again, like and subscribe for me, and appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to you later.